I just wanted to revisit the idea of the imaginal having something to do with high strangeness and the ability to visit it. I mean, this is a thing because you can just look at salvia reports, and because I had my weird salvia experience, and then I started to look at other ones because I never heard a salvia report. And the ones that I think are most common are nothing like mine, but I heard a lot of reports that would say, I lived an entire lifetime in a foreign place and I had a wife. We were together for 18 years. We had 3 children. And then I woke up from the trip and I was back in my bedroom with my buddies in the beanies and, being stupid college stoners. And I mourned the loss. Like I really just had my whole family wiped away. And that is just, I've been thinking about that ever since. And there are other reports where they say my consciousness was stuck in a desk and I was stuck in a desk for what felt like 50 years. And it was the most agonizing torture imaginable, solitary confinement, paralyzed, fully conscious, but can't emote. And then they came to, and again, in our reality, moments pass 2-4 minutes, 5 minutes tops, it's nothing, but your consciousness goes to this place and it is very real to you. And so I think about that in the context of the T. Townsend Brown story. And then I also think, I brought this up to a lot of guests. I don't think we've ever talked about it. And it was a Tracy Twyman thing that she was kind of getting into at the end, talking about Freemasons and how their symbolism is all about angles and their imagery is like a ladder to the sky and a window opening in the clouds and the sun on one side and the moon on the other. And it almost seems like if you had that kind of context, that they're kind of talking about finding secret spaces or finding technologies, maybe magical technologies, not mechanical ones, but technologies to access special realms where you could maybe live immortally, really. Like if you could repeat this, say the salvia experience is rolling a dice and getting a random experience. Now let's say, because it is a possible thing, what if you could make it repeatable and reliable, and through ritual, you could navigate to the same place? Some people talk about islands off the map. Well, let's get out of the material realm and say this is a space off the map of materialism that maybe like you go there and you have the wild parties, like the Epstein Island in the sky, where these people would do whatever depraved thing they wanted to do and then come back and they're in their robes in the Masonic Lodge. They look around, they're like, wow, guys, that was really weird. It's only been a half hour. We just had a whole weekend at that crazy place. I mean, it just got really interesting to me to think that there's a possibility that people somewhere along the line unlocked, with entheogens or without, a repeatable process of extending their life through these other lives they would have at this other space. And that is a cool idea, whether it's true or not. What do you think about the prospect of such a thing?
So it's true. This is a simple answer, but it's a kind of true. Last year in the jungle and in the Andes, like the length of time I spent with ayahuasca, she was teaching me dimensional stuff. And it's funny, when you're in that dimensional space, it makes complete sense. And I was like, yeah, I got it. Give me some more colors. Like, yeah. Nope. She's like, are you writing this down? I'm fine. I'll remember it. And you get back to Earth, so to speak, and like, she was showing me how dimensions work as different forms of perspective, because I'm very interested in perspectivism, which is, I think, the most correct way of experiencing this dimensionality we're talking about. So when you're in a dimension, to understand dimensions make sense. This one, less so. And that's unfortunately the trick that I got. And then, so I guess discovery this year is the wrong word. I kind of knew about him beforehand. But Matthias De Stefano, who is, I call him an Argentinian Edgar Casey, because he's one of those people that says some initially really woolly things that feel right. Like when he sings in Atlantean, it's like, it's something. I don't know what that is, but it's something. And he has this model of creation that he remembers from Atlantis or whatever. And it's a dimensional one. So we typically think of dimensions as realms that we go to. But actually, it's a perspective shift. So a dimension is like 2 points, or where 2 points meet. So when we talk about dimensions, it is this angular perspective process where you just kind of like look from a different trajectory at the totality of all, and you see different things, right? Now, I've had experiences with entheogens that look like that. I've had experiences with what is this, effectively a cattle worming tablet that behaves like speed, that was big in the early noughties in New Zealand when I was there, called charge pills, for anyone who remembers. They're now banned, obviously. But I was at a club on charge pills, basement club, and all around me it kept warping into an Italian restaurant in the 70s. I mean, like the checkered tablecloths and the brick wall and so on. And I'm like, whoo, I'm really high. I found out that that club was an Italian restaurant on K Road in the 70s, one of the first in the city. And I'm like, okay, because I kept, and the reason I remember this, and I'm glad we're past the watershed, is there was some chick blowing a guy sitting on the chairs like along the wall. So I kept noticing that because I'd be, oh, do I look at that? Do I not look at that? I look to my left and then come back. And then in the process of moving to like not look at it, but then also, is that still really happening? I kept, the walls as my head would move would become Italian restaurant walls and tables and all this, to the point that I'm like, is that guy getting his dick sucked in an Italian restaurant? What the fuck's happening? And that I think about that when people tell me about wandering in and out of realms, Bigfoot encounters. You know how I feel about Bigfoot. Is, do we go somewhere else, or is it all here? And we do like a dimensional perspective shift, and we see different things. And why that's relevant to me this year is one of my trips back to Whetu Ariki in New Zealand to see my friend Matafero, who's rebuilding his ancestral path site. This trip was one of the high points of my life, was going to see his ancestral cave burials, and I was the first white guy to do so. So he's showing me different parts of the sacred landscape of Nariki Kaiputahi. And he was talking about their treaty claims. So in New Zealand law, there's a Treaty of Waitangi, which is the treaty between the Crown and the different Maori tribes. And you, not so much you get different things depending on it, but your access into the treaty is based on lineage, like how long your tribe has been here and where they've come from and what canoe they came from. In the case of his tribe, his ancestors are Taniwha and even older beings. So they're in the process of litigating with the Crown based on ancestral claims that have to do with beings that aren't human. And it's breaking reality, which is why we're such good friends. But he was asking me about, like, well, what do you think? Because our creation stories have these half human, half reptile beings that and when we look at the arrival in New Zealand, we're only talking about 1,500 years ago, maybe a bit more, when this stuff happened. And I said, with my spirits and the stuff I've done in the jungle and so on, I get told that reality was different. And I know you've done shows like about gravity being different with dinosaurs and so on. On a bigger level, reality, this comes back to the shifting timelines or dimensions, right? So there is a dimension where that was true and we're not in it anymore, right? Like we shift dimensions or the dimensions shift. And that's my solve for things like Atlantis and so on. And it was really helpful because I gave an Atlantis presentation for the Magical Egypt conference this year. And that was in the context of just coming out from Whetu Ariki and hearing Matafero and his really like curandero king father talk about all these strange stories. He's the one I mentioned that, so we have this Maori healer, a tohunga, who has secret Admiral Byrd documents and spent 6 months in Antarctica. So we had some good chats. But so people, this is a Carrie Mullis thing, right? Like people like Matafero and his father, Owen, have electric raccoon experiences because they are somehow important to like destiny, right? And there's something about this dimensional shifting stuff and what ayahuasca was telling me and the dick sucking in the sort of Italian restaurant. It wouldn't be a Gordon story if he didn't fold that one in. And near-death experiences of remembering, and this is my circling back around to your Salvia experience, remembering you having near-death experiences and being shown different realms, like different dimensions, different versions of Earth where things are happening. that makes you realize that actually, I think perspectivism is true, and it's shifting our perception of one giant totality. And things like magic, and especially astrology and Mayan astrology, are technologies we use to navigate, because we're currently in a body that doesn't experience dimensions the way we do when we're not. That is a plus. Our meandering mic drop.
Can you believe it, people? A video clip and a peek into how that sweet THC sausage is made. For some people, I'm sure it's nice to put a face to the name, so I started making clips that are a little more YouTube friendly than the full show tends to be. Get the full show on any podcasting platform. I prefer to keep it audio only, so we have a more decentralized distribution for a controversial show, and also so I can edit out the ums and ahs and barking dogs and all the things that happen when a person records in their home environment. And then if you really like the show, you can sign up for THC Plus, and instead of 1 hour interviews, you get the full 2 hour interview for just $8. I think that's a better deal, more of a win-win than asking you to support the show by booking a therapy session or buying generic Viagra. It's getting weird out there, folks. So just go to the highersidechats.com or click the link at the top of any set of show notes, and all your wildest dreams will come true. All right? All right.
The Higherside Chat Show. Greg Carwood.